Welcome to the financial intelligence session for today. This is a session that we hold on a weekly basis via Zoom. This is not about getting rich quick overnight, but instilling in you the skills, information, and education to build lifetime wealth that can be passed on to your children and grandchildren. I want to welcome every members of our group to this session today. If you're joining us for the first time, you're awesomely welcome as well. We encourage you to join each session every week and do watch our previous recordings, as each sessions are always powerful one you cannot afford to miss. So make sure to invite your friends and families along next time. Before we dive into today's session, if you're yet to watch the session we had last week, please try and watch after this session. It is uploaded on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, so you can literally catch up on that. And we're going to do a quick recap on what we discussed last week. In our previous session, we talked about how you cannot see money with your eyes. So money is an idea that is clearly seen in the mind. In life, we often make the wrong investment, like I explained in the previous week, or we might make a wrong move on a business venture because it looks enticing, but we fail to see with our mind rather than our eyes. Not until after the whole deal has been finalized, and then we see. We start to see some cracks in the wall. If you guys already know what I mean, right? On average, 95% of the people invest with their eyes and only 5% invest with their mind. For you to become a professional and successful business investor, you will need to start training your eyes to see only 5% and train your mind to see the 95%. Okay. We look at the first step in how you can train your brain to see money. In order to train your brain to see money, you need a thorough understanding of financial literacy and how this is missing the school curriculum. I don't know. Because usually things learned as a child sticks better in the brain than as an adult, right? But anyway, understanding financial literacy is the first step required on how to train your brain to see money instead of your eyes. You need to understand the words and numbers of capitalism, which is something that we also talked in the previous week. And also, we look at the second step in training your brain to see money. It's understanding real risk. So you need to learn to understand and recognize, what real risk is about, right? This is very important. And remember how people on the left side of the quadrant, they think everything is risky, right? So they think the right side of the quadrant is risky. So you need to learn and understand what exactly risk is. Investing is not risky, but being uneducated is risky. We talked about, if your banker told you your house that you took out on the mortgage is an asset, they're right. In the sense that it is an asset to the bank, right? They don't just tell you the old truth. Until you finish up the mortgage payment, the house is still an asset owned by the lender. These and many more were talked about in the previous session. So I encourage you to watch the full video on YouTube, okay? It is on our channel, so you can search for D Hauer and then you can watch the video on YouTube. Here are a couple of quotes that I pulled out. The most dangerous phrase in the language is "we've always done it this way." So what does that mean? When you've been doing something in a certain way for the most part of your life and you're not getting results, it's probably about time for you to know that, okay, we've always done it this way, it's not working. It's about time to start thinking about how you're gonna change the way you do things in order to change the results that you get in your life. I find this quote very, it's a powerful quote as well. The most dangerous phrase in the language is "we've always done it this way." What have you always done the same way and you're not getting the results right now? Maybe it's time for you to start thinking about how you can start changing things and do it in a different way. And this is another quote as well by Albert Einstein: we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Wow, that's an awesome quote, guys. We cannot solve the problems in our lives if we were thinking negatively, and those problems were caused by our negative thoughts, right? It's going to be impossible for us to solve the problem unless we change our thoughts and the things and the actions that we take, right? So we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. That is an awesome quote. So today we want to continue from where we left off last week. As a reminder, we're on a journey and it's important to pay attention to these things. The end goal, obviously, is to help you to learn how you can become financially free and how you can convert cash or labor into assets that will in return put money back in your pocket even when you're sleeping. What I will be talking about in this series is derived from the book Cashflow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. This is probably one of the best book out there about financial intelligence and financial literacy. And as usual, I put the disclaimer. I am not an affiliate of the author. I'm only using what I've learned and put into practice in this book as a guide and not claiming to be a qualified teacher or associate of the author. But however, after saying that, I do recommend the book to anyone looking to learn about financial intelligence. In this week, we want to look at transitioning internally from one quadrant to another. Okay, so we want to look at how we can transition from one quadrant to another, and that is becoming who you are. Okay, so we want to learn how you can change the person that you're becoming, right? So becoming who you are. And for so many people, the main challenge is the changes they go through and what they become in the process. So remember the caterpillar to the butterfly story, right? For so many people, it's that changes that they have to go through. It's a lot of challenge for them, right? And some people might find it to be an easy process, while some will find it as a daunting task and impossible to achieve. You see, money is addictive. For example, because many people get paid on a weekly, bi-weekly or monthly basis, they get used to this cycle and become a very difficult to let go, right? Because that's what they're used to. A lot of people do not understand delayed gratification. You see, many are not willing to sacrifice their time for months or even years and reap a lifetime reward of financial freedom, while the way many have been taught is to become an employee, and this can be a cycle that is difficult to break for a lot of people in the society today. If you plant corn, you can harvest in a matter of months, but if you plant cocoa, you can harvest in a matter of years. So, however, one carries a bigger rewards than the other, right? So it's the same in reality. It is important to understand these things if you're willing to transition to the right side of the quadrant. If you want to become financially free, you should learn not to work for money, and you must learn how to create your own system. People who are self-employed are also used to earn an income when they work, right? This is still trading their time for money. It is important to learn how to function in certain patterns in the world of money, which is a large system, right? The world of money is a large system that people need to understand. And for example, an employee works for the system, right? A self-employed person is the system. So pay attention here, folks. A business owner creates, owns, and controls the business, and an investor invests into the business. So very important to know like where each person stand in this large system, right? An employee works for the system. A self-employed person is the system. A business owner creates, owns, and controls the system, and an investor invests into the system. So let's look at this from a different perspective. When someone with an employee mindset is in need of money, they look for a job. When someone with a self-employed mindset is in need of money, they do something alone depending on their skill set. So it could, for example, some people probably are good in buying and selling, or some people could be a photographer. They do it alone, but basically they're working for themselves, right? But that's automatically what a self-employed person think about when they need money. When someone with a business owner mindset is in need of money, they create a system. They create a system or buy an existing system like a franchise that will produce money for them. And when someone with an investor mindset is in need of money, they look for an avenue to invest in assets that will in return give them more money. Remember how we're all different at our core values. We already talked about this in the previous sessions, so you can check them out on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Another thing to note is that it can be hard to change one's ways of reasoning because money is essential in our lives today. Virtually everything we do or need costs money. Sometimes while trying to transition from the left side of the quadrant to the right side of the quadrant, an internal battle kicks in. The change from caterpillar to butterfly can be a tough one for many people. What do I mean by that? Imagine having the belief of a job security all your life, and you're used to getting paid on a monthly basis. Now you're trying to move away from that to an unknown territory. That can be a scary thing, right? There will be a tussle in your mind between the part that is after a job security and the part that is willing to transition and make the big change. This is the stage where many people resort back to their comfort zone. However, you have the willpower, to make the final decision, right? You can either take the leap and start building a business system, or you can crawl back to your comfort zone and continue to trade your time for money and enrich another person. Building an online system these days has become so easy with the use of so many tools and software out there today. I think we should look into building an online business system in one of our sessions together. We can actually do a separate session for that and look about the things that are needed to build like an online business system, right? You can also build a business system around your passion. You can build an online business around your passion as well. You can be rich in any profession that you do. For example, I've been working with a few people on creating a digital product on their professions. And the thing is, a good digital product can set you on a path to financial freedom if you know what you're doing. Some people look down on some professions, and don't forget that you can operate in all four quadrants regardless of what your profession is. It's even more risky on the left side of the quadrant compared to how many thinks about seeking a job security on this side of the quadrant. Most jobs demands that you constantly gain more skills due to the constant changes in technologies, and you need to be constantly trained in these new technologies in order to keep up with the world of job seekers. Not even think about the high unemployment rate in the world today. Like, people are crazy, upscaling and doing all of those things just to keep up, right? And be a part of this world of job seekers. You can easily spend the money that you will use to upskill yourself on educating yourself on the skills required for you to transition from the left side of the quadrant to the right side of the quadrant. And like I said in one of our a transformational coaching, there is an untapped gift that lies within you right now. You have a unique skill, a talent that the world is yearning for. You may never tap into this if you don't take the leap to do that today. Same thing goes for the self-employed as well. It's risky for them because their income is directly linked to their availability to work, right? For example, if they go on vacation, they're most likely to be losing money. If they fall sick, this can directly impact their income. And when they age, they might not have the strength to continue what they do. And most self-employed put in lots of hours. Their body might be tired and they will not be able to continue, when age caught up with them. One thing to note is that for you to be successful on the right side of the quadrant, then you must be good with numbers. Number becomes your eyes, and you will be able to see things people aren't able to see. While it is more safe and secure on the right side of the quadrant compared to how people on the left side of the quadrant perceive the right side of the quadrant, if you have a very good business systems printing money for you, when you have a business system that is printing money for you, and you're literally doing very little to no work, then ask yourself, why do you need a job, right? Or why do you need to worry about job security? And the cool thing is, if you need more money, you can expand your business and make more money. Investors who know what they're doing do not bother if the market is going up or going down. Such in the case of cryptos, as I explained in our first session, many people attach so much emotion to money. They get into the market when the price is high versus the smart investors who knows and understand what investing is all about. Investors who know what they're doing makes money whether the market is going up or down, the market is crashing or not. They make money. It doesn't matter what the market is doing. And that's because they have the knowledge to do this, right? So whether the market is going up or if the market is crashing, they will still make money. It's so funny that people on the left side of the quadrant pay to take risk, while people on the right side of the quadrant gets paid to take risk. Wow. And I'm going to explain that. For example, if you're an investor, I mean, if an investor buys a shares of a company stock, the investor is being paid for taking the risk of investing in a company. If the price of the shares booms, like goes up, the investors makes what we call a capital gain, right? Also, most investors get paid in forms of dividends. Like most investors, they would get paid in form of dividends, right? As mentioned earlier, there are ways to build an online business in this information age. It's also easier to learn the necessary skills in building your own system today due to the advance in technology. How to become rich? Wow, this is a good one. So last week I played a cash flow quadrant game, and many people understand it better than the first time that I played it. I will try and do this once in a while so it sinks in even better. I discovered a wealth formula from this cash flow game. You need to understand the game of money. You can be rich if you're able to decode the wealth formula. Okay. So you can, yet anybody can be rich if they're able to decode, understand the wealth formula. It's also important that in order to move from the left side of the quadrant to the right side of the quadrant, your thought process must change. The way you think has to change. All right. So you will have to be a different person entirely in order to do what needs to be done. Let me give a quick example here. If you're someone who loves watching movies and playing games or listening to the news all the time, maybe sacrificing the times that you spend in these unproductive habits might be a way to start the change, right? And you can see for some it will be difficult and for some it will be easy. This is where being disciplined kicks in, right? So because if you're not disciplined, it's so difficult to let go of the things that you love to do and swap it with things that you're trying to become and learning. Like most especially when people start learning something new, it becomes difficult at the beginning and later they start getting used to it. So this is why for some it will be difficult and for some it will be easy. It's easy to do the same things rich people do. It's even easier than you think. There is a lot of wealthy people and rich people that didn't do well in school, but because taking action of becoming wealthy, it's simple. Like what you need to do, it's simple. You don't have to go to school to become wealthy. In fact, according to Forbes some years back, 400 or more wealthiest people in the world who did not go to school have a lot more money than the 400 richest people who did go to school. So basically, what that means is like out of 800 richest people in the world, the top 400 didn't go to school and the remaining 400 actually went to school. So you can see that you didn't have to go to school to become wealthy. And to do, which is the taking action part of becoming rich, it's also not a rocket science. What you need to do is not a rocket science. You see, I mentioned this in the previous session. To become rich, you have to take a step away from the crowd and think independently. You must cultivate the habit of thinking, okay? And let's look at this. According to Thomas Edison, 5% of the people think, 10% of the people think that they think, and the other 85% would rather die than think. If people truly think, they will not be doing what they're doing. And this is a topic that I feel we shouldn't shy away from, okay? Because a lot of people think that they think, but if people actually think, they would not be doing what they're doing right now. The thing is, if you continue to do what everyone else are doing, you will get what everyone else are getting, right? Like, what if you continue to do what people are doing, obviously what the crowds are doing, you will get what the crowd gets. For most people, this is years of hard work, unfair taxes, and a lifetime dedicated to debt, hardship, and in some cases, poverty. This is what happens when people do what everybody else are doing. So it's important to take a step away from the crowd and start thinking, real, like real thinking, not just to think that you think, right? A lot of people think that when they buy stocks, mutual funds, or invest in real estate and do what the rich people do, they think they will automatically become rich. No, it doesn't work like that. This is the reason why I have been talking about the person you are at your core, right? Remember the example of taking two people to a farm. One will see food and the other will see money. It is the same here. Some people with a loser's mentality will always lose no matter what they invest into, because this is who they are in their core. Until they change, they will always be like that. The author talked about the be, the do, and the have. Okay. Have is, this is what you want to achieve. For example, getting rich, finding the love of your life. This is having, right? Do, which is the doing. This is what you will do to become successful. For example, exercising to lose weight and keep fit, going on financial or money related seminars or webinars. Those are the things that you will do in order to achieve what you want to achieve, right? And then we have the be, which is the being part. This is what you will do for yourself. For example, let the change start with you rather than you trying to change others. To move from the left side of the quadrant to the right side of the quadrant, it's not really about doing. It is about being. It's about the person you are becoming. It's not just about doing, it's mostly about the person that you're becoming. You see, it's not what a business owner or an investor does that makes the difference. It is how they think and who they are at their core. That is what makes the difference. And that is why they're wealthy. And that's why when people try to copy them, if they have a loser's mentality or mindset, they will always lose because they're different at their cores, right? Again, I talked about is take two people to a farm. One will see food, another will see money, which is business opportunities. And in fact, if you put in a third person, this third person would see employment opportunities. They would, how they can apply for a job there. Most people with an employee mindset, they value security. You may notice that people in this category can take big risk in other areas of their lives, but not with their money. And I was listening to a radio program the other day, and this guy was talking about financial intelligence. Yet, someone called in and asked how she can get a job. Such is how many have been conditioned, right? We always also many people see is jobs and job security. And for the self-employed, they are often perfectionists. No one can do it better than them. Because they carry this mentality of do it yourself, they struggle to become a business owner because they have the mindset of ensuring things are done right. And for them, the only way to have it done right is doing it themselves. They struggle with the need to be in charge because they don't like making mistakes, and it get at them when someone else makes mistakes and it falls back to them, right? And as a result, they are suited best as a self-employed. This is why you would want your fashion designer to be a perfectionist, right? Obviously you don't want someone sewing a bad cloth for you. And you would want your lawyer to be perfect and flawless. You want someone to represent you in the court to be perfect and flawless, right? How about this one? You want your brain surgeon to be a perfectionist, isn't it? They get paid for being a perfectionist, and these are all categories of a self-employed person. This is their strengths. This is also their weaknesses. So being perfectionist is their strengths. At the same time, it turns out to be their weaknesses as well. So let's talk about emotional intelligence here. As humans, we have emotions. We feel fear, anger, sadness, joy. disgust, surprise, trust, and so on, right? I once said in previous session that how a person handles a turbulent times in their life will determine the aftermath results, right? How we handle these emotions is what makes us individual. For example, you would have seen this around the world. Some people handle crisis calmly. They're very calm, and some handle with fear and irrational behavior, right? Even the rich experience fear. People think that the rich don't experience fear, but the rich do experience fear when it comes to money, but how they handle that fear is what matter most. The emotion of fear is why many people think about playing it safe when it comes to investing. They don't want to take risk at all. For most people on the right side of the quadrant, the fear of losing money makes them to think how to play it smart and how learn how to manage risk, right? So an investor knows that investing is risky, but rather for them to play it safe, they can say, how can I play smart in the market and how can I manage risk, right? Now you can see the difference between how people on the left side of the quadrant thinks and how people on the right side of the quadrant thinks, right? And it's still the same emotion of fear, but different thoughts, different beings, and different doing and different having, right? People who handles their emotions well have the tendency of persisting towards the desired outcomes. They don't get down by what's going on the outside of their emotions, right? Like people, they handle this people on the right side, they have the tendency of persisting towards their desired outcomes, and they put down what's going on their outside emotions. Like whatever is going on, they don't worry too much about that. According to the author, in his opinion, the greatest cause of financial struggle is the fear of losing money. And I totally agree with that because a lot of people, the fear of losing money eventually makes them to be poor, and they even to some they even lose more money in the process, right? People want to always to be safe due to the fear of losing money. They sometimes give their money to someone they believe is an expert, hoping and praying that they will have the funds available when they need it. People who take risk make mistakes and they recover from it, while people who learn not to make mistakes, they are afraid of risk. You can easily know if you're thinking with emotions and not rational if you use the word feel in a conversation. As an example, when people say, I don't feel like studying, they know truly that they need to study, but they are being run over by their emotions. It is important to note that the journey from one quadrant to another is a lifetime journey. You are transitioning from one set of core beliefs to another. So what you believed before, it's totally different from what you're trying, to get into your belief system right now. And it is a lifetime journey. We all have deep emotional phobias about money because money is an emotional subject. And as a result, most people cannot logically think about money because it is an emotional subject. Though being persistent is important, when you're in the journey to a successful life, but wisdom and intelligence is knowing when to quit. You gotta know when to quit. An easy way to manage this problem is to have mentors who have been on a similar path before, and they will be able to guide you. Don't just find people who doesn't know what they're doing and then you ask them to advise you. No, you actually need a mentor. Okay, now let's look at difference the difference between an employee and a business owner. Okay, one thing for sure is that they are different at their core values, like what they think, how they reason about life. It's different, right? The struggle between an employee and a business owner is that one desires more pay. One of them actually, like an employee obviously desires more pay, while the other desires more work, right? A business owner wants more work. From one side of the quadrant, you may have heard the phrase, I work very hard but get paid very little, right? An employee would always say, oh, my pay is never enough and I work so very hard. And from the other side of the quadrant, you may hear a phrase like, how can we motivate them to work harder and not increase their wages? Let's look at the difference between a business owner and an investor. The tussle between a business owner and an investor may rise in the shareholders. One desires more capital while the other desires more dividends. A company, like a business owner, they may, think about how they can make their life easier for their top executives, right? While an investor in the company may be thinking about reducing the number of top executives. I hope you guys understand what we're dealing with here, right? The rich are different in their thoughts and dialogues. Their B is different. So what they, the B part of them is different. Our choosing words are very powerful. Many people struggle financially today because their emotions do the talking and controls their life. People need to learn how to overcome such emotions driven by their thoughts. Again, words are powerful and become reality. Avoid using negative words. You see, many people say they can't afford this or they can't do that. It's just too hard to do, right? The moment you start using those negative words, like your brain will automatically, it locks down your brain and then you would automatically crawl back to your comfort zone. The fact is, yes, currently you're not able to do the things that you desire, right? But when you start using positive words like, how can I afford to pay my children's school fees? How can I become a business owner? How can I learn to manage risk? Then the reverse happens in your brain. So instead of crawling back to your comfort zone, your brain opens up to bright new ideas backed with action, right? You got to take action as well and changes in your core values. So you got to change, the way you think, and then you got to take action. You will start being on the path of success and being able, and then you're going to be able to afford to do the things that you wanted to do because you got to get bright ideas. If you get bright ideas and take action, and then the way you think, like, it's going to change. For example, if you make a mistake, then oh, it's just a mistake, I'm going to learn from it, and then I'm going to do the next big thing, right? Rather than before, when you make a mistake, then you quit and then you say, oh, I'm not doing it again, right? So your action is important, and the changes in your core values is important as well. And it may take time, but it actually works. When you're afraid of losing, you remain where you are, even if where you are is uncomfortable for you. Even if you're passing through a lot of discomfort in your life, you remain in it because you're afraid of losing. And let's look at some example. People stay in jobs where they are treated badly because they're afraid to lose out, right? People remain in abusive relationship because they're afraid of losing out. People hold on to old items like an old car, that they don't even drive again, but people just hold on to these things that they don't need. And people hang out with friends who hold them back because they're afraid to lose out, right? They know that their gathering is bad, but they're just afraid to let go of them, right? And you can see why some people remain in their a discomfort zone for a long time, part of their life. In the society today, many are conditioned to be financially coward when the fear of money creeps in. Most people's minds start thinking about job security instead of freedom. They want to avoid risk by all means rather than learn how to manage risk, right? They worry about what their friends will think instead of what they think about themselves. They worried about what others think about them. They say they can do it instead of asking how can they do it, right? So these are the things that happens in people's life that not ready to take a leap. By the way, you are an average of five people that you hang out with. So if you hang out with poor or negative minded people, you become an average of them. And if you hang out with positive and rich mindset people, you also become an average of that. Having a sound financial intelligence is tied to your emotions. A lot of people suffer in their finances because their emotions controls their thoughts. We all have emotions, but how we handle our emotions individually is different. As an example, an emotion of fear can make one to be coward and make another to be full of courage, right? This happens when say someone is attacked by an animal, an emotional fear would make someone to run away, like, oh, I gotta run. And then you're gonna see some people, they want to fight back, right? That emotion gives them full courage and they want to fight back. So what the business owners and investors do isn't hard. It's just as easy as the cash flow gameplay we had last weekend. Life is a game of Monopoly for the business owners and investors, like we say during the gameplay. Of course, sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, but that's part of the game. In order to be successful on the right side of the quadrant, you will have to be someone who loves this game of money. Remember the being part of the do, have, and be. When a person's emotions think for them, it blinds them from seeing anything else. And such emotional reactions blindfolds a person from seeing how easy and risk-free things can be on the right side of the quadrant. The author of the book encourages anyone who desires to cross from the left side to the right side to have a long-term positive support group and have a mentor. Learn how to be the bank and not the banker. Again, we did this last week in the game. So if you want to become financially free, you need to learn how to create money and play the role of a banker. The rich creates money. If you revert to the video where I played the cash flow online game, you will be able to see how to create money even if you start with very little. This video is uploaded on YouTube. You can take time to check it out. So you can take time to go through the gameplay and see how the rich people create money. So here's a little secret, guys. Well, not so much of a secret anyway. The rich mostly operates as corporate entities and not individual entities. I know I've talked about this in our groups a few times. An individual entity needs a passport to move from one country to another, but a corporate entity doesn't, and they move freely for the most part, right? This is one major reason the rich are able to keep more of their wealth. Like most rich people, they have a corporation. They're not operating under their name. So this is another awesome session for today, guys. This is where we're gonna wrap up for today. And then obviously, if you have any question, do reach out to me on WhatsApp or just let me know. Yeah, you can reach out to me on WhatsApp. And I want to encourage you to invite others to join in future sessions as well. Also, you can subscribe to our video YouTube channel and catch up on all the series, right? Because this is a series of sessions and we're getting closer by the day. So if you go back to the first session and catch up on what we've been talking about, then you get to understand what we've been doing so far, folks. So thank you for being part of today's session. So it's been an awesome session. So have a good one, folks, and we'll catch up later. Thanks. Bye for now.